I mean, talking about dance floor, we can talk about it for hours, you know? Yeah. I mean, the common denominator of the bass. You know, it's like.
Do you remember when you first applied for the residency? With,
it was an earlier incarnation.
That's right. Yeah. So I don't know how many people you've showed that to, but it was both like so different from what I'm reading now. Right? But at the same time, I'm also seeing certain echoes. Yeah. About your interest in using certain formal qualities of like light, for example, to then draw out metaphysical questions.
I mean, definitely went through some very major thing. I think also that version that you read actually was still was partially already sort of developed before I shot A Land Imagined.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So the idea and the inklings of the thing was there already before. And then I was trying to get this project started up, and then maybe it didn't pan out so far. And then A Land Imagined took over. And then I shot A Land Imagined. And then I felt like after I shot A Land Imagined, I traveled with it and like so much has happened. Like maybe I am quite different from the person who wrote the earlier incarnation of the script of Stranger Eyes. And then I felt like there are a lot of things I was reading like that's me, but that's also not me anymore.
Right? Sure.
Yeah. So it's really like, okay, now how do I update it to something that is a lot more what I am now. How I feel about cinema and also the issues that are coming out of the script like now. Which was when I was starting really to develop this in the residency first, and then later on.
And then with the Berlinale, like what did they see? Was it very different again? You know, because you did you were in Berlin with us twice.
Yes.
So by the second time, was that very different already?
By the second time, it was like closer to this, but then it's already quite far away from that initial thing that I sent you.
Right.
Yeah. So let's put it as like this is like that plus COVID. Because actually quite a bit of a chunk of it is written during the lockdown.
Yeah, because I'm curious, like when the surveillance threat starts coming into the screenplay, was that mostly
It was already earlier on, but I think the surveillance thing for me really started to change in a bigger way. I mean, surveillance in a way, as someone who's like very interested for my privacy and freedom, blah blah blah, is always very antagonistic.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. But then something like very powerful hit me during the lockdowns, which was that like this is here to stay. I mean, surveillance is here to stay. It's not just here to stay, but like as a Singaporean, you almost feel like you need to be socially responsible. I mean, of course, there's all these safe entry things already, the tracing together app and all these things.
It's now couched in the question of being responsible for others. Right? Like,
it's a moral thing to be surveillance, right?
And to self-surveil, like you should be checking in.
You should be
yourself.
checking in. Like you are almost curious how you want to know other people. So that interconnectivity of us watching and being watched just got so heightened. It got, and then prior to, I feel like the COVID time, it wasn't yet so much of a moral obligation, so that you can also like, I just hide in my own corner, can now. Right. But I think after COVID, we can no longer be in that mode anymore. It's right front and center to everything that we do. Like hey, did you save entry or not? Did you know like someone also asked me like hey, you got installed the Tracing Together app, right? So I'm like, oh, you mean like I have to? You have to if you don't then so just a lot more thoughts about like what is really this surveillance now in a very big way in our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, so which I think sort of made it into the script. Of course, I mean the easy way to put it is that it's no longer whether is it about privacy, like should we withhold our privacy, but it's just like how.
Yeah.
Like how do we, how are we letting ourselves be in surveillance?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then for me, maybe the more interesting question would be, what is that relation? What is that relation? Of course, from the time of discussing social media, we are already talking about how an existence is about being watched. If you're never watched, if you're never seen, if you don't have likes and follows and stuff, you are like non-existent. So your existence and being surveillanced already is like very tightly, it comes together. Yeah.
And at the same time, there are also ways of being and certain almost kinds of persons and identities that cannot exist if they are really seen. Right? They in fact require you to not see them so much. Then they can really exist.
Yeah. But and meanwhile, so we are actually living like so much more different selves in oneself. Depending on who's seeing.
That's right.
Like depending on who's seeing.
Yeah.
You can be like a single social media person, but you are actually targeted for 5 different audiences, right? And it's like 5 different selves.
Yeah. And for me, the challenge about living here, especially so now, is that it's a bit of an imbalance. Like you have so many spaces where you are seen and tracked, and so many ways to do that, but not so many where you are unseen. Where you can move around or circulate or respond to somebody else in a relatively, unvisual space. You know what I mean? Like a space that doesn't focus on how you necessarily are acknowledged or seen by others. Or recorded.
I mean, sometimes I even want to think that like, when no one is watching you, you're still watching yourself,
right?
And that when yourself is your own audience, you're just but another self. In a maybe slightly more postmodern kind of drift, but like this self is the same, hierarchically speaking.
Sure.
It's like it's the same, It's like they're just as real, they're just as you in a way. I think what for me I was also exploring with the idea of light and stuff in this film is like this observer relation where you're saying, I think that maybe the bigger problem for me is that when people are watching you, it's a lot harder to change.
Sure.
Right? It is a lot harder to allow yourself to change. And I think that's something that I'm starting to really think about, that okay, even if I'm watching myself at home, at least I can allow myself that room to change, to have growth. I might make a resolution about something about myself. Like I'm not going to be this kind of person, something like this. But if I don't tell it to anyone, okay, I have that room to, maybe that thought was a bit too, I can tweak it a little bit.
Sure.
But I think once everything is so out, everything is so observed, your ability to shift, to change, to grow just becomes very dependent on something else. Right? And there's a bit, I guess it comes back to that scary point, right? Which, if you want to take it as that we have already now totally internalized the surveillance around us as true. It's like, like walking in the streets of Singapore, I would even, like, if I'm talking to my foreigner friend, I'll be saying like, right, we're being watched, right? Like, it's like a default. We're being watched, all the time. And then I look around, but I don't see the camera. But it's like already me totally deciding that I'm being watched, I'm being surveillance. Maybe my phone is being tapped. So I have no idea like who is watching what. But because I'm so internalized that I'm being watched, this ability to change might affect also, right?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Because this way of figuring out the kind of authority, even if it doesn't exist outside of yourself, right? You've already subsumed it for almost as a kind of moral voice. And then it begins to affect your behavior. And sometimes I feel like, and not to make these spaces too romantic, but you know, there are moments where like I'm on the dance floor and it's dark, and it's not crowded, right? But sensorially, there's enough to overwhelm or take over enough of your senses, right? That it's not necessarily that you're overwhelmed, but your senses are occupied in a way that that voice isn't the focus of attention. So it's not an internal negotiation with it. So you don't go, oh, how am I seen by other people? And so, which is why there's a kind of, I mean, others have wrote of it where sometimes these moments on the dance floor become moments of epiphany, right? Because you go, oh, this is what I really am, and this is what I really want, this is what I really like, you know? And of course, there are other spaces like that has happened, but it's similarly when my physical senses are occupied in a way. In those kind of spaces, often slightly darker, right? Where I go, oh, actually, you know what? This is what I really, this is who I really am.
I mean, talking about dance floor, we can talk about it for hours, you know. But I mean, it's also saying that sensorially, you're not so. The fixity of it, right? It's like it's not so substantial in a way that it's like it cannot be shifted. And then at the same time, you can trust in a way that even the others around you in the same space, sensorially, they're also going through the same thing, experience. Right? So you're not gonna be judged, right? Because they're in this strange shifting space, you know, like everybody is just melting, right? And flowing, and I mean that's really beautiful. I mean,
because there's something I feel like it's also going on in the script slightly, where I feel like it's about dissolving this sense of a single consciousness. You know, like you were asking me whether or not certain things could be the same people, right? And I feel the same way. Like I feel like often in the dance floor, it's like when I feel I've given too much credit to this single whole person thing. You know what I mean? And it's because my a part of me gets preoccupied that this other part of my being takes over. And who's to say this is not more me or less me than, you know, the usual me?
No, definitely. I mean, I think on the dance floor, going back to it, this idea of the self,
right?
It's like a very different, very radical kind of mode already. Like and
it's also a really strange sense of a collective experience. You know what I mean? You're not really talking to anybody. No one's made any agreement about what to do or what to say, but somehow you feel like you are together.
I mean, the common denominator of the bass. You know, it's like no, it's like sometimes you get enwrapped in your own self on the dance floor. And then you look up and everyone is like in this collective moment, of like moving. And so many times I get totally lost in the whole sea of everyone, like and how everyone is actually already affecting how I am right now, you know. So it's a very strange kind of, whether you want to call it a paradox or something, of like the total kind of solitude thing, but at the same time it is also totally collective. In a way that maybe because our rational kind of connections are not doing that same work. Right?
I also wonder whether or not it's like we have this capacity for attachment, right? Except that our consciousness wants us to only attach to in certain kinds of socially acceptable or morally defined ways. But when certain things override those expectations, then your consciousness and for that moment just attached to everyone around you going through the same thing. Right? And then you go, wait a minute, I'm suddenly feeling I'm part of something a little larger.
a little larger and constantly changing.
Yeah.
Like whenever you open your eyes, I'm attached. I open my eyes again, I'm attached to something else. Yeah, so this attachment thing is also not like this permanent, fixated, obsessed.
Yeah.
Of
wanting the same thing again and again. Yeah.
This possessiveness.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm very sure we're going into Buddhist territory here.
Okay, just for a quick moment, just to like kind of segue back into the script again. Like how long do you see the development? Do you see this needing another year?
I mean, it would have been easier to do this calculation in a non-COVID era, you know. Yeah. No, but now is very new situations for us.
Did the producers give you a little more time also?
Definitely, because they cannot rush it also.
Right.
Yeah. No one can rush anything at this point of time. I mean, I take it both as the setback for everyone, but at the same time, it's really a very good time for me to take that few steps slower. I think there was this thing where, you know, if a lot of people see Align Imagine as maybe my sort of first film big break, although I have made a previous film before, this Stranger Eyes sometimes becomes some kind of a follow-up, sophomore type of thing, where many of times I think a lot of filmmakers get very rushed into, you know, like doing a follow-up. I think so. For me now, having some time to, you know, I don't have to, you know, push myself to proof on myself or something. You know, it's like this has been very nice. Okay. I must admit, to give myself this time with the script, and really to update myself to how I have changed. Right, as I was talking about, instead of saying like, oh, this is like the next script I already prepared.
Right.
After finishing this film, now we go straight into like production mode. You know? I think that would have been a real mistake, you know, for me, you know, as someone who wants to grow through this process. Yeah. So maybe we are talking about, I mean, next year would be I think it would be very difficult to say like we are gonna start production next year, unless maybe right at the end of the year, maybe there's a chance.
Although filming is a real challenge now. I mean,
it's too distracting.
Sure.
I mean, even if we can figure out how to not have everyone in the background wearing masks, you know? Like all the you know, people walking past the scene wearing masks. Like, even if we can figure all of that out, the whole setup to making this film would be really distracting for me to like concentrate on the film itself. I understand that there are a lot of productions that have to go into it, you know, and also there are of course a lot more commercially driven reasons for TV and other kind of content that they really have to go, you know, go to it now, you know. Then they have to do it. You know? Yeah, but if for me working on a piece like this, if I can try to not distract myself to making the film that I want to make, then it would be best.
Cool.
So I think for me, I'm still gonna be getting the Sony one, which that one doesn't have.
The 7S3.
The 7S3.
I've been waiting for that camera for so long.
It's real and it's out.
Oh my god! It shoots in moonlight.
Yeah. Like, wow.
I don't need additional equipment. It shoots in moonlight.
Shoots in moonlight. 4K in all your different speeds.
Correct.
That kind of funky things. And it goes on forever.
And like, what more do I want from an affordable camera?
Yeah. And they fixed this one thing that for like filmmakers it bugged us for a bit, which is the color science. It could never meet the Canon colors.
Oh.
Previously.
I didn't know that.
The specs are very good. The data rate and all that stuff are good. But if you look at the skin tones, it's still a bit magenta, it's still a bit like green at the wrong areas.
I see.
But the new A7S they got down the science just right already. So image to image quality, right, is there already.
Wow.
Yeah. So it is. There are no complaints in it.
Yeah. Because I mean, if you're not doing, I mean, for trying to find a sub 5K, 5 to 6K camera, but you don't have to spend a crazy amount of money. Like, wow, this is really my sweet spot.
And unlike the cameras that try to do too much, like the cinema camera, they have battery like the battery can only last for like 20 minutes, 15 minutes.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So this one really is the sweet spot. Like, like one can last 1.5 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, man.
Have you
I'm really seriously considering already.
It's my Christmas list.
I mean, I was listening because of SIFA. They are getting me to shoot a dance film.
How's that going?
It's all like full mode, like full drive. We're gonna do it like quite soon. And then it's kind of just nice the time that the camera released. I'm seriously thinking to ask Sony, like, would you give it to me, for free?
Who did you have to dance for you?
Well, actually, this one we're still talking. We really also wanted to actually bring people in
to the theatre.
No. From Southeast Asia.
Dancers
from Southeast Asia. I think now it's still very hard. We were just hoping like by October maybe it's possible or something, but I don't know.
Yeah. Even Malaysia now is still the 7-day thing. Like they can come in now, right?
I think
now it's a 7-day quarantine.
I'm not exactly sure.
They must have an official business.
They must have official business.
And then they can come in and it's 7 days.
7 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, because we have to shoot this before end of the year. Yeah. So we're just waiting to see if they even loosen up. We can get like some Indonesian.
Indonesians, I don't know.
The Indonesian dancers are like damn good.
Yeah.
It would be nice to have some, cross-border things.
Thailand might be possible.
Yeah.
Because Thailand is safer than Singapore, than Indonesia.
Maybe. Okay. Yeah. I mean, but anyway, if not, we have Singaporean dancers also, of course. Yeah. But yeah, so I guess that's.
What's happening with SIFA?
So now, I mean,
is Garov's edition still on next year?
Yes, right? Because Gaurav had this extra extension thing, because of
COVID, right?
COVID. So yes, I think he's extending on for 1 more year.
Okay.
I mean, now already all the virtualized stuff is starting to roll out.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing I did for TNS is also now out, on their side. Yeah, we did a scheduled release because I made 5 small videos for them. So every month they will release one new video, like a bit TikTok-y style stuff. And then by the end of the year, this dance video for SIFA. It will also be a digital thing. Hey, talking about a dance film that I saw recently. It's not a dance film, but it's a film that has a lot of dance in it. Like this Pablo Larraín's Emma?
No.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very problematic film, I think, to a lot of people. And it's an exercise about unlikable characters. There's like a lot of them.
Pablo Larraín.
Yeah, Pablo Larraín's Emma, EMA.
Yeah, I saw.
But the dance and the reggaeton, it's mainly a lot of reggaeton dancing. Yeah, in the film, it's like, wow, very shocking.
Okay, I can check it out.